Hi, this is the first of two videos I've created to help artists, people who want to sing in Portuguese, to give them the basic pronunciation rules, to help them try and read lyrics and sing without actually knowing the language, without having to learn Portuguese. Of course, it is to be encouraged if you want to learn Portuguese. I would definitely encourage it very strongly. But you don't need to learn Portuguese to sing in Portuguese. Okay, you can learn some basic rules of pronunciation and practice a lot. So what I've done is I've created two videos. This is the first one that takes the pronunciations from A to M. Okay, let me put okay, so from the letter A to the letter M is one video, and the rest of the letters from N to Z is another video. You will notice that I've used a color coding, so some letters are in green, others in amber. Green are the straightforward letters, no difficulties at all for English speakers. Amber ones have some difficulties. Maybe they are pronounced in many different ways, or maybe they are not natural for the pronunciations are not natural for an English speaker. In part two, there is a similar mix actually of green and amber, and there is one red, which is the letter X, which is pronounced in many, many different ways, but fortunately it doesn't appear in too many words. So let's move to the next slide, the first letter. So the letter A actually is straightforward, that's why it's green, and it's the sound A. It's very straightforward. A felicidade, amada, amanhã. Now there are some muted A's, which I'm not going to talk about here, because this is not supposed to be a detailed course in Portuguese. It is actually giving you the basics of pronunciation and not all the subtleties, because there are lots and lots of subtleties, especially with nasal consonants. There are a lot of nasal consonants in Portuguese, and we'll touch upon one or two of these sounds, but not just yet. Okay, so the A sound, a felicidade, amada, very straightforward. We are still actually here in the A sound, although an English speaker will be tempted to start creating new sounds like saudade or cosa, because that's how you would combine A and U in English. Well, you have to resist the temptation to combine these two letters, for example, or different consonants and create new sounds, because you are still in the A sound. This is saudade, causa, praia, cair. Okay, so that's why this is, I've put it as a green letter, because it has an A sound, a full stop. Okay, I do mention very briefly, and it'll come back in the letter L. You've got some interesting situations where an A next to an L at the end, or even actually at the beginning or the middle, is pronounced au. Like this is pronounced quintao, legal. So this is nothing to do with the letter A itself, because we still have an A sound, but I've just thought I'd mention this a little bit early, because you've got some interesting pronunciations like this. Okay, quintao, legal. Just note also that if you're listening to lyrics, because this video is really aimed at mainly people who want to sing, when you're listening to lyrics, sometimes you will notice that you get a word like gia here, but you don't hear the A in the lyric as the artist is singing. You hear more like a GA, and this happens very often, at least in songs from my experience, where the artist just goes and does a direct link from this word to this next word, and it becomes, this is in the singing becomes GA. Okay, and that happens a little bit in songs. So A is very straightforward if you remember that it's an A sound, okay? The next letter, the B, is a green letter, so nothing here worth mentioning. It's pronounced just like you would in English, agua de beber, lobu bobu, nothing special. It's a standard B sound. The C letter is quite simple, actually, quite straightforward. I think it could have been a green letter, but there are a couple of things worth noting. So normally it's the K sound. Okay, in English, C often has a K sound, like caramel, active. And so you have things like corcovado, cabellos. Okay, very simple, very straightforward. If there is a cedilla attached to the C, so that's a different letter altogether, the sound is an S sound. Okay, soluçao, cansao. Okay, so that's easy because it's actually telling you the cedilla, the C with the cedilla is telling you that this is an S sound. So that should be very straightforward. Something worth noting is that the C combined with an H is not like you pronounce it in English. In English you would use a ch, like in chop or chat. In Portuguese it is a soft sh, like in shop or shock. And so this is read as chuva and achar. Okay, so that's something to remember because it's not natural. Naturally you would want to say chuva or achar, but it is a soft sh that you need to use here. The next letter has a couple of complexities, not too bad, but you need to memorize a couple of rules here. Okay, so the D, when combined with an A, an O, or an E at the beginning or middle, is pronounced like a normal D sound. Okay, so before an A, an O, and an E in the beginning or the end of a word, I'm talking about the E here, it's a D sound. Let's take some examples. O samba da minha terra, dor, do, and before an E, depois, desafinado, poder. Okay, so it's a standard D sound. However, when you have an E at the end, so when the D comes before a final E, like in this word, saudade, now it's no longer a standard D, it's a J sound. I've written it as a D with a J, so saudade, agua de beber, so although this word is isolated, DE, you need to consider it to be at the end, just for memory, so that you remember it is G. Poggi, so it's interesting because the verb poder is the standard D, but in one of the to be able to is poggi. So the same verb actually is pronounced differently because it's written differently. Actually, let's go back to agua de beber. The rule is that the DE is pronounced G, but don't be surprised if you hear a lot of variations here, because some people say Rio de Janeiro, not G Janeiro. So there are actually variations here to the rule, and in general you will notice that there are regional variations around some of the pronunciations of letters like this, like the D, and letters like S, which we will see in part 2. Okay, so the D before a final E is pronounced G. So that G beber, poggi. Same thing before an I. So before an I, a D is pronounced Gia, Gizer. Okay. So this is a rule that is worth remembering, and it's not straightforward. It does take some effort. A little quirk here, interesting. If you look at a word like this, you've got a D, but followed by a consonant. Okay, and it is actually pronounced, interestingly and strangely, adjimirar. This word is adjimirar. So you've actually added a J and an I, not just one letter, to this word. I was really surprised the first time I saw this, but it's something that can be remembered. You know, it's quite unusual, but you do find it actually. You find it in a song like Aquarela do Brasil. You have the word adjimirar. I think this is the first time I saw it in that song. The letter E is amber because it's pronounced in two different ways. The first way, which is the E sound, okay, Ipanema, beber, eu, quero, this is an E sound. It is easy when the E has an accent, like the accent aigu, the French accent aigu, it is easy to remember that it's pronounced P, because the accent is actually telling you how to pronounce it. But otherwise, at the beginning or the middle of a word, the E is pronounced E, Ipanema, beber. Okay? When it is alone or at the end of a word, if you look at these E's here, you consider it at the end of the word, end, then it's not E anymore. It is an E sound. João e Maria, hoje, ele me mandou, alegre. Okay, so this is not an easy one to remember because you've got an E here that sounds A, okay, in the middle and the beginning, and then you've got an E that sounds E at the end of the word. Okay, just as a matter of interest, the A with an accent is a verb, by the way. It means is. Ele é feliz means he is happy. So the A is. Whereas here, João e Maria, João and Maria, means and it's pronounced E. So this is ele é feliz, João e Maria. Can be confusing. Okay. Now remember that we said that a lot of the E's are pronounced A, like this here. Don't be tempted once again to combine consonants and try to make new sounds like you would do in English. This is Deus, eu, meu, real. Okay, remember the L is strange sometimes, but this is, you have to pronounce the letters separately. Real, Deus, eu, meu. Okay. Again, in songs, you will see sometimes. You might be surprised. You think that this should sound like an E, oki, uki, but because this word starts with esto, sometimes you will hear okesto. So this is done away with because, you know, the artist combines the two words together, and this one wins, basically. The S2 here wins. And so don't be surprised, actually, if some of the rules look different. The F has nothing special. It's a standard F as you would pronounce it in English. Notice that the fotografia is written with F's and not with PH. It's, you know, just a little interesting fact, but this is nothing special. F as in English, that's why it's a green letter. The G has two sounds. A G sound, as you would in garage, for example. Okay. Sometimes the G will come with a U, in which case it is also a G sound, as in garage or guitar. Okay, so that's easy to remember. Okay, Garafa, Globo, Golpe, Guerra. Okay, and this is often before an A or an O. You will have that G sound, and obviously before the U is always a G sound. Huh? So A, O, and U. When it's before an E or an I, then it changes sound. It's no longer the G sound, and it's not either the J sound that you have in English, as in gentleman. Okay, it is a different sound. It's a soft G, so it's gente. So it sounds a bit like the word Asia, Persian. So this is gente, gelado, Gilberto. Okay, so it's a gentle, it's a soft G, not like the English where you would say gentleman or something like that. Okay, so two different sounds, the G and the J sound, but the soft. It is not the DJ sound. Okay. The H is an amber letter because it's got two different pronunciations. Okay, one is at the beginning of a letter, it is silent. So these words, this is ora, Oji, and Elena. Okay, so you don't hear the H here. Ora. Okay. The H, when it comes after an L or an N, takes a Y sound, becomes more like a Y sound. And so this word sounds like melior. Okay, so it's not melhor or like Spanish mejor. It's melior, more like an I or a Y. Melior, Olia, Senor, Amania. Fairly straightforward, huh? Because they look different, don't they? Okay. The I is a green letter too. It's got the sound like Italy or Irma. So it's different. It's slightly different to how you would say things in English, but remember it's an E sound, almost like a double E, you know. So Irmão, Linda, Ipanema. Very straightforward. And just remember once again, when you see other vowels, don't try to create new sounds. This is still an E sound. So this is violão, is guitar. Viagem, praia. So it's still an E sound. And it doesn't really get altered by the other letters. That's why this is very straightforward. As long as you remember that it's an E sound. This is not viola, it's violão. Okay, viagem, praia. The next letter is a J, and it is the soft J sound that we saw earlier as in the G letter. So like Asia, Jasmine, Janeiro, Já foi, jantar. Okay, this is like a new sound really that you need to get used to, but it should be straightforward, as in Asia. The K is usually found in borrowed words from other languages, so you won't find many words with the K. You will find actually this, proper nouns like Katya and things like that. So, but it's pronounced exactly as you would in English. Nothing special here. The L is a green letter because it is pronounced exactly as you would in English. Lembra de mim. Cabelos, olhar. This is, remember the H becomes a little bit like a Y here, but the L is still an L. Double L is pronounced like L, Villa Lobos, okay? I mentioned that when I spoke about the A, but when you have an L, when you have some consonants like A and I and O actually, before an L, the L sort of disappears and becomes like a W, quintao, but a short W, you know, almost muted, quintao, legal, Brazil, so. Okay, that's not easy, huh? Because the tendency for an English speaker is to really pronounce the L, quintal, legal, Brazil, sol. But the L disappears, becomes a W almost, but a very muted one. Okay, quintal, legal, Brazil, so. The M is an amber letter because actually it could have been green. But okay, it is an amber because it's got two sounds. One is the standard M sound that you have in English, like in minha, amor, amada, nomi, nothing special here. However, at the end of a word, the M disappears almost or changes into a nasal or a muted N or NG. Like this is not sem saber. This is a common mistake actually with English speakers will tend to say sem saber. It is sen saber. If anything, it's an N. If you have any doubt, it's an N. Or it's a muted NG or sem saber. Homem, sim, rio. Okay? So it's not an easy one to pronounce or to remember, but in the worst case, you know, you could have a short N, sen saber, homem, sim. Just keep it muted if you can. So fairly straightforward, actually. Just remember the M at the end is a bit special. And that takes us to part 2. Which has, as I said, a number of green letters and a number of amber letters, and plus the X, which has, I think, 4 or 5 different pronunciations. So there you are. Keep practicing, keep reading lyrics, try to guess how they are written. Remember, you can use notation to help you remember how some letters are pronounced and things like that, at least to start with. Don't hesitate. I still use a notation because I tend to forget that the E at the end is not an E, it is an I, you know, ki. And I still have to write it down when I'm singing lyrics and things like that. But at least you've got some basic rules. So see you in video number 2. Good luck.